Welcome to the Red River Paddlecast. I'm your host, Brad Friesen. In this episode, we're joined by the adventurous Keith Holm. From paddleboarding races like the Red River Paddle Challenge to epic journeys across Lake Winnipeg and the Mississippi River 145, Keith's passion for the water is unmatched. We'll explore his journey from building his own paddleboard to racing in challenging conditions and how his love for individual sports like unicycling, fat biking, and sailing keeps him connected to nature year-round. Let's get started. All right, welcome, Keith, to the Red River Paddlecast. It's great to have you here joining me today.
It's good to be here. Thanks for the invitation, Brad.
It's been great. I've been wondering about who to have on the show, and like your name was like one of the top persons. Like I got to get Keith on right away because me and Keith go way back. And it got me thinking, like, where did Keith and I meet, and what was our connection, and it goes back to stand-up paddleboarding. That's how we met, was through paddleboarding. And I have early memories of you kicking my butt at the Coney Island Challenge. I was looking at the results, and in 2018, I think you beat me by about 30 seconds. I remember that. Yeah.
Your memory's better than mine, and I'm finding that hard to believe.
So that's kind of, how we first met, I believe, was through the paddleboarding, hey?
Definitely paddleboarding. My memories are I can remember tons of excitement with that Coney Island race. I had never experienced anything like it. I've spent my whole youth on Lake of the Woods, but to paddle around that island, and I can't remember what board I was on. I think it was a 10.5-foot NSP, but it may have been a 14-foot race board. I can remember not wanting to fall in and making it through, but I do remember the first real connection with you, Brad. Out of necessity, I've always been quite a frugal person, and it was probably a Kijiji ad, might have been Facebook, where you were selling a paddle, and I needed something more than I thought I did than a plastic bladed paddle, and I went out and met you at a Cooks Creek event. They were having chili and stuff, and you did a quick paddle handoff before you got in the water, and I saw everybody start, and then I was hooked.
Yeah, I kind of remember that Cooks Creek race. That was an early one as well. We used to have quite a few sup races back in the day, and they kind of fell apart, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with many of the personalities and the politics, and but it sure was good in building the enthusiasm and support. You mentioned Hopper at Hardcore Surf and Paddle. He was super helpful to me with equipment and some small repairs, and having those people around the city is fabulous.
Yeah. And so you bought that paddle off me, and then so what prompted you to get into sup racing?
I guess I'm an individual sports person, always have been. Sailing is maybe a little bit of an exception. I do a lot of sailing, but it's a small team, 3 or 4 people. But I love being out on my bike. I love cross-country skiing and paddling. I guess I got into it out of necessity. We sail all summer, and I had a pretty large dog, and that required pulling a dinghy behind the boat. And
I remember your dog, Ocean.
Yes. Yeah.
When you say big dog, you have a big dog.
She's 145 pounds of Leon Berger that loved to swim. And pulling a dinghy behind a sailboat is like having a fully loaded bike carrier, for kids behind you all the time. And it was driving me crazy with the noise and the speed. And I thought, maybe a paddleboard. And I wish I could remember the guy's name. He lived north of Winnipeg and was building his own paddleboards and into actual surfing and weather forecasting. And I went up and I bought a 10.5-foot NSP hardboard, and it had a nice smooth deck that was great for Ocean, for the dog. And that's how I started paddling. And then well, maybe I should try a race, because the dog and I would paddle, 5 or 6 or 10K. She'd go wherever. I thought maybe I should try a race out. And I can't remember where I heard about the Coney Island race, but that was my first race.
That's awesome. Yes. Did you do the Coney Island with a dog one year?
I did not do it with a dog.
Okay, that was someone else. That would be impressive if you did that with Ocean on your board.
If someone did it, I bet it was Jim Salter.
Well, maybe it was Jim. Yeah. So I guess that was pretty cool how you got into it. Did you expect SUP to be such a big part of your life after that, or?
I didn't know where it was going, but I had a couple friends join in through the city. Let's try to do it. And I'm a high school industrial arts teacher, and I teach primarily woodworking. And we've done canoes, and one of the projects in the shop was I wanted a wooden SUP. So I got some plans and sort of modified a kit and built a 14 foot long wooden SUP that was beautiful. And I paddled that my second year in the Red River Paddle Challenge, and the second year that I did the Coney Island race
Right.
was on
That was a beautiful board.
it. It was stunning, and I hope it still is. Unfortunately, it just wasn't very fast. It was a joy to be on. It was the right length, but it wasn't real fast. And I said, okay, these races are fun. I'd like to try this Cook's Creek thing. I'm going to need something a little bit faster. So then I think the bug was set at that point, and a few things happened to get me into the game a little bit.
So let's talk about that board you built, because that was, I mean, that's no easy thing. Not many people build their own paddle boards, let alone build them and race them. What was the process like for building that? I mean, you come from a woodworking background, so maybe it was a piece of cake for you. A guy like me who hits his thumb when he hammers a nail in, not so much.
Well, we've got something in common. I don't know if you can see that. That was last weekend. We've
oh, nice.
done the thumb thing, but
that would be me.
The paddleboard, it was a hollow board, built a lot like a cedar kayak or a canoe. It had a plywood frame that was all sealed in epoxy, sort of like a whale skeleton. And then it was covered in 1/4 inch thick cedar and sanded through. So lots of little strips. And I tried to keep the planks as wide as I could for visual interest on the deck, and some steam bending of wood. I tend to like things just a little out of the ordinary. It doesn't look like it came from a kit, even if it started that way. And then that's all covered in a really thin layer of glass cloth and epoxy resin. And in this case, way too many coats of varnish to make it look like glass. I loved it so much. I loved it so much, but it was too beautiful to have on the sailboat and a little too heavy to carry around. It ended up being a little over 40 pounds.
Wow. I was going to ask how heavy it was. I was assuming, I didn't realize it was a hollow board. I kind of assumed hollow board equals light, but 40 pounds, that's
the weight tends
heavy
to come from the coats of resin to make it strong, and the varnish. It just all adds up. And then the other issue with boards, all of our boards expand in the sunshine. So I had some vents in it, but I had to be really careful to open extra vents so that it wouldn't explode sitting on the beach. So I think it's having a real nice life at someone's cottage now.
Oh, that's good. Glad it found a good safe home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you build that in your school where you work?
Built it in the school, so the kids got to learn about plans and layout and strong backs to keep things straight, and they had a hand in cutting the strips and how you trim them and fit them with block planes and spoke shave sanding tools. And it's a great experience. I find anytime, whether it's school or personal life, if you're excited about something, people around you are going to be excited about it too.
So the kids helped you build it. Do they know that you race it? Do they know, like, what do they know about you outside of school? Do they know, like, hey, this is my teacher?
Yeah. They know that paddle or the water is my biggest passion. And they know that I love being outdoors. We had some snow here, as you know, a couple days ago, and I'm probably the least popular guy in school that's like, no, this is all right. I don't mind snow. But in April,
that's right.
People are,
because not only in summer but winter, you're an active guy too. You do you're into cross-country skiing, fat biking, and unicycling.
Yes.
Are you still doing the unicycling?
I unicycle a little bit now. I had over 10 years that I commuted year round to school to work. It was a 10-kilometer one way, and I did that for over 10 years on a unicycle. So
That's crazy.
Originally
10 kilometers each way.
Yeah.
Year round. Winter in Winnipeg too.
Winter in Winnipeg, right down to -30. and most snow types. And it was a ton of fun. I think I made a few people laugh and a few people swear, and all in all, it was good for my mental health and physical health. And then yeah, about 10 years of that, and then I got into fat biking, which is again sort of like water racing, like the Red River Paddle Challenge. You're in a community of fabulous people, but you're also doing a sort of individual sport. It works for my mental thought process and well-being, and um, the fat biking community was super welcoming. We, like the early days of sup racing you're talking about, there were a lot of races for a while, and COVID sort of shut those down, but the community's still there.
Yeah.
But I started commuting to school on the fat bike. Life got a little bit busy, and it shaved about 15 minutes off my commute in each direction. So that added added time to do other
That
things.
adds up. Yeah. Time is valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm still riding fat bikes. I actually ride mine all year round. I seem to be faster on it than I am on any other bike. So it's good fun.
Yeah. Yeah, the fat biking's it's really exploded here in Manitoba. There's a lot of, it seems like we got into it shortly after COVID. Samantha and I, my wife, we picked up fat bikes and discovered it that way. But it's really cool. There seems to be a really, big community of fat bikers out there. There's several events, but also the support and the trails that we have here, the groomed trails are what make it fun when you get aside from just commuting, but going out and exploring our single track fat biking winter trails. They're pretty awesome.
We are so lucky here that not enough time in this podcast to name names, but
Yeah.
Wayne Bishop, for one, has been instrumental in getting trails in Birds Hill Park and Grand Beach, and other people. There's so many that are putting tons of volunteer hours into grooming. And when I say grooming, most of them are groomed by riding your bike and pulling something behind it, and the
Right. Yes.
respect of the community.
It's a lot of work, a lot of time and effort that goes into maintaining those trails because every time it snows or melts, then you have to go out and tune up those trails.
Absolutely, and trust that the trail users are respectful of each other. Many of the trails are multi-use, so there's a continual education process, so that people are wearing snowshoes opposed to running on them and putting post holes in that make it dangerous for others. So it keeps going, and
Yeah,
I think we've got a good balance in the province.
that's great. And there was one year I saw there was a group you included did a crossing of Lake Winnipeg on fat bikes.
We had 3 officially organized years with that. A gentleman by the name of Tom Kolesnik is still very active in the fat bike community, and he organized a trip from Grand Beach, Manitoba, across to the middle of the lake and across to Gimli and back, and we camped out in the middle of the lake. It was minus 30 in the morning.
Wow.
Fabulous event, and then it got a little bit bigger the next year, with some sponsorship and a memorial for a search and rescue fellow that had passed. But because it got bigger, there was some snowmobile support, and they agreed to bring my unicycle with them. So I was able to unicycle in the middle of Lake Winnipeg in February. And so
That's
as far
that's
as I
awesome.
know, I may be the only person to have unicycled on Lake Winnipeg in the middle of the lake. Yes.
You didn't cross the whole lake on unicycle, did you?
No, I just put in maybe a kilometer around the camp, but the rest was on fat bike. Yeah.
I think we have a new challenge for you, Keith.
I'll be a little bit to get back in shape for that, but
Hey, you got a year.
yeah.
Next winter, Keith, let's get him across Lake Winnipeg on unicycle. That'd be awesome. So you must have a special unicycle or bike for that then, tires or
I've had a whole variety of unicycles. They're kind of like shoes. There's one for every occasion. I had a 36-inch wheel that's great for speed and highway use, a little harder to get on. The 29-inch wheel was kind of my favorite all around for speed and off-road. It could do tricks and jumps and kind of like mountain biking. And that one I retrofitted with a fat bike wheel. So it was a 4-inch wide tire, and you could go over a lot of stuff. It took a little more power, a little more core strength to muscle that wheel around, but it was fun.
That's really neat. So you tend to gravitate towards winter activities winter sports?
Well, I do enjoy being out. It's year round for me, Brad.
Yeah.
It's uh, get outside, whether it's in the trees or on the water, and look at things. Um, I had a, it's usually my friends that are my worst influence. You know, the shirts that you've seen that says that's a horrible idea. When should we go? That tends to be me. So I did have a friend that said, you know what we should do? We should ride our fat bikes across Lake of the Woods from
Mm.
War Road, Minnesota to Kenora. And that seemed like a great idea. And in the end, it turned out to be a great idea. It was a 2-day camping experience and 120 miles at minus 25, minus 30 Celsius.
Oh, I had no idea you did that. That's pretty cool. So did you spend 2 nights camping, or was this like one night overnight?
Just one overnight,
Yeah.
starting in War Road, snowmobile trails, and then the ice road, which,
Okay.
I don't know
Did
if
that
you've
help?
done, it did to some extent. I was unprepared for it. I've seen ice roads and I just sort of thought they were like snowmobile trails, but I was unprepared for the fact that it's glare ice and 6 lanes wide, and I had no studded tires. So
So sliding around quite a bit, I imagine.
sliding around, but also good fun. We had a big tailwind. We were literally going down the ice at 60 kilometers an hour on fat bikes,
Holy cow!
no
On a fat
nuts,
bike.
and loaded with tents and all kinds of gear. Memories that you just don't forget.
Yeah, that's incredible. So those skidoo trails, I know we have a bunch of those in Manitoba. Is that frowned upon for fat bikes to be using those? I would
It's a
assume it wouldn't be
it's
very
a it's a
safe.
hundred percent frowned upon and possibly
Yeah.
illegal.
Okay.
Snowmobiles are as we know, really fast, and those trails are paid for and maintained by their members. What we did on the actual trip was ride off to the side of them, which
Okay.
actually, so we were using them more as a directional finder.
Mhm.
And the lake blows in, and often the snow is crustier and more fun to ride on than a chewed up snowmobile trail. So that's what we did. And once we got to the ice roads, that's that's a free for all.
Wow, that's great. So then, late back on Lake of the Woods in the summertime, I guess you're a teacher, so you're off all summer. You've got a sailing boat
Yeah, we've
that you.
got a 30-foot, it's actually 33-foot sailboat that ends up being the summer cottage. So it's something that we can sleep on and have friends out with. And the dog, don't have a dog at this time, but so we'll sail to a destination. It could be 30 nautical miles away, which is only 3-4 hours of sailing, depending on the wind. And you might stay there overnight or for a couple of days, and then out come the paddleboards.
That's
And we
great.
that's really where the love of paddleboarding started for me, Brad, because I had a
Mhm.
board, taking the dog to shore with it, and other people at the harbor started getting boards, and uh, primarily inflatable boards, because they don't damage the sailboat and they don't get holes in them when they bump up against the sailboat. And so what would happen is you'd get 20 sailboats in some wilderness harbor, and out would come the paddle boards, and you know what happens then? It's an impromptu race, or at least friends around, and then some of the people in the harbor really actively. We had a jamboree one weekend of summer for several years where we do a 3 kilometer loop around a bay. Uh, Tons of fun. So that got the spirit going for everybody, which is, if my memory is right, how I ended up with my first 14-foot fiberglass board.
Hmm.
Little ashamed of the story of,
Uh-oh, let's
because
hear it.
I really try to take care of people's things. My mantra is I want to return it in better condition, or at least the same as when I borrowed it. But I went into the hardware company in Kenora to rent a board, and they didn't have anything. But the owner, Steve Strack, and he says, "Well, I've got a 14-foot Blue Planet race board that I love. I don't usually rent it out, but he knew my name. We weren't real friends. But he says, if you want to rent it, go to my house and pick it up. It's sitting on a trailer," which was just amazing. And it goes back to the quality people and all these outdoor sports. Everyone's supportive. So I pick up this board, take care of it, take it on the sailboat to this jamboree. It was tons of fun. And then people wanted to try it. I let somebody try it, and I got too close to them, and I with being aggressive in our fun race. And I tripped the guy, and he fell on the board,
Oops.
and he put his knee through the deck of the board, put a hole
Oh
like
no.
this, the top of the board, and I'm just like,
Oh
my.
no.
And so I had to go back to the hardware company and eat crow, and just, Stephen, I've done this. How can I make it right? And he says, well, you got to buy the board, which was fine. Um, the bad part is that he loved the board. He didn't want to sell the board. Um,
Yeah.
and so I fixed it up. And that's after I bought a paddle from you. That's the board I was able to race at the Cooks Creek event I made a year later. I still feel
Okay.
bad about
Yeah.
having damaging the board, but that was my first race board, and then I went through a couple. I still have a couple other hard boards.
Yeah. But in hindsight, maybe that was a good thing. Maybe you wouldn't have discovered the love for racing on 14-foot paddleboards. Who knows?
It's very possible. I've had some really nice, and still do have some really nice inflatable boards, Red Paddle and some NSP stuff that I really enjoy.
Yeah.
But there's no comparison to getting on a quality hardboard.
No, there really isn't. I mean, the inflatables definitely have their advantages. You know, had your friend tripped and put his knee on that inflatable, good chance it's not going to have a hole in it. But
There would not
you
be
know,
a hole.
when it comes to performance, though, there's no comparison. The hardboard is definitely the way to go.
It's the way to go. And you talked about unicycling for me earlier on, and you've encouraged me to go narrower on the boards, and I love the challenge it gives my body. It's a full body workout, and it's I call it dynamic. It just keeps my subconscious thinking, and I just brings out those happy endorphins being on that board.
It sure does, especially when a motorboat comes flying by and you've got all this side wave to suddenly deal with, right?
Those are
Isn't that great?
not necessarily happy endorphins in that case, but
Yeah, yeah.
but that's
we
a
get that.
good
We get that a
challenge.
lot in Winnipeg here. Yeah.
Yes, it's
That's
the odd ones that are trying to scare you, analogous to a car coming too close when you're cycling on the road. They
yeah.
don't need to be that close, but for the most part, it's not too bad on our rivers here.
So back on the sailing, what I understand is you've done some racing as well out on Lake of the Woods and even down in, was it Minnesota?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough. I've raced my whole life with my dad primarily and family. Lake of the Woods has an incredible race called the LAWISA, which is the acronym for Lake of the Woods International Sailing Association. And this year is the 60th iteration or anniversary of that race. It's still going strong. My dad started it. This will be his 59th LAWISA that he has raced.
Wow.
I started sailing that with my family in 1976. So we've done that. It's very competitive racing with different classes of boats. But I've also done some one design racing on a boat called a Sonar. So for the 10 years leading up to COVID, we sailed in Gimli on Wednesday nights, and come September, we'd head down to Minneapolis, where they'd have a 20 boat strong regatta, sometimes also hosting the Midwesterns. And we've been out to the Worlds on that boat in Rochester, New York 1 year. So again, great teamwork. Sailing like that only works when people can anticipate everybody's moves and have a lot of trust with each other. And we've had a great team.
I didn't know you had done that much competitive sailing. That's really cool. Yeah, that would be a big team involvement, team effort to move those boats and communicate with one another. How many boats would you say are in these events?
Well, the LAWISA race in its heyday, it was capped at 120 boats. Now we see about 40, with a mix between day sailors, which are coming back. People will tent and be on houseboats and boats up to 38 feet long. But all out there for the same reasons: camaraderie, a chance to be in competition and put up all the sails. And Lake of the Woods itself, for people that haven't been out to Kenora or in the Canadian Shield, is a navigational challenge. The winds are gusty and strong, and also very light. So again, it's sailing is this never or always changing chess game. with
Yeah.
physical activity, and your mind is always active if you want it to be. Somebody said to me once, probably my dad, heavy weather sailing is a physical game and light weather is a mental game. And some people excel at both.
Yeah. I guess with sailing too, there's a lot of understanding that you need to either acquire or learn or know about in regards to, the winds, the currents, the water, and all that. That helps you in making that boat move. But
Oh,
how, so is that right?
oh,
Safe to assume?
exactly right.
Y-
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what's I can imagine that being a benefit too to when you go and paddle, because you've got this understanding of all these things from sailing. What sort of things can you skills or knowledge cross over from your sailing into your paddling?
The movement of waves for sure. And being able to know how wind is going to work around a shoreline, whether that's bending around a river bank, or bouncing off an opposite shore. Knowing what those powerboat waves might do as they come closer to you. Currents to some extent. That's probably where I'm lacking the most. I don't have fast water experience other than our Red River come springtime,
Mhm.
which a good friend of mine that I'm speaking to right now encouraged me to do the MR 145, and I had never seen fast water before, and that was my biggest apprehension. So the more time we have on the water, the more we learn. But yes, there is a correlation from my time sailing to being able to read waves and wind.
Yeah, rivers are definitely different than, oceans and lakes. That's for sure. The water behaves and reacts differently to the weather and all the conditions. They're a little bit different. But I mean, it's still, I'm assuming on or on Lake of the Woods, for example, you would encounter sections with current there. I don't have a lot of experience there, but Devil's Gap rings a bell.
Devil's
I can
Gap,
recall going up through there, and there's some current we had to go
there's
against.
a lot of current there. So the water in Lake of the Woods starts down in Fort Francis Rainy River and makes its way north. And at every choke point, Devil's Gap is one of them, Keewatin Channel. All that water is trying to get out either through the Winnipeg River or into and out of Shoal Lake. That's a two-way channel. That's a fun one because depending on
Yeah.
the lake levels, it flows in either direction. But for sure, those currents to get to know. It's not as much of a sailing challenge, but when we're navigating through those island areas, you've got to be aware of them.
Yeah, that's really cool. I would like to spend more time on Lake of the Woods. It's a phenomenal area. There's so much to explore and see out there. And it's a big lake, and it's got a lot of interesting things on it.
It's a fascinating lake, and I've been lucky in the last 6, 7 years. I've been spending more time out in Pinawa, Winnipeg River system. So when you talk about currents there, the first time I launched the paddleboard there, I'm like, well, this is interesting. Not knowing what's under the water and trying to figure out what does that boil mean? Why is the water moving faster? I'm still
Yeah.
piecing those together more experientially versus paddling with an expert to teach me more quickly. But so far, it's been working.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Pinawa's a cool little town. I know if you go out, you got that Sharky's Channel in the
Yeah.
middle of those two big islands, and that's yeah, last summer I always paddled the Winnipeg River, and we came through Sharky's last year, and it was the current wasn't too high, so it was pretty chill. It was actually kind of low. There are a lot of rocks exposed, but one of the highlights we saw was a black bear just kind of swimming in the river. Oh yeah, he crossed the river and came up on shore and just kind of walked along the shore, and we just floated with the current, watching this bear. Pretty neat.
That's awesome. Yeah, Sharkies is neat. And there's all kinds of structures towards Otter Falls. There's some old dam heads that are submerged, and depending on the water levels, that things will be swirling around. And then you can, of course, take the back channel that ends at the portage into the Pinawa Channel where everyone does the floats. The
Right, the Pinawa Channel. That's a fun paddle.
I haven't yet done it. That's on my list for this year. I'd like to.
Oh man, yeah. It's great. I would recommend not going on a weekend if you can, because it gets especially that stretch between Pinway, you got all those tubers. And there's a tuber, and then they have their tube with their cooler full of adult beverages, and different crowd, I guess. So if you want that nature experience, go on a weekday.
That's the plan. We're fortunate to be able to do that in the summer with our career choice.
Right on. So let's jump back into the paddle racing. I'm sure that's what people want to hear about. Well, they want to hear about everything, of course, right? It's all awesome. It's all interesting stuff. So yeah, your first races were here. You did the shorter races, Coney Island, the Cooks Creek.
Which I think we're both
Um,
around 10K, I think, maybe 13 for Coney. I can't remember how long those are. Maybe I'm
yeah, I want it sounds about right. They'd be anywhere, take us from a hour to hour and a half, I think, in those ranges from what I remember. So then I guess part of your racing advancement is maybe it's my fault because I started the Red River Paddle Challenge. You joined the Red River Paddle Challenge and you've been involved in this race every year since 2019,
I
which
have, and
is
I
is
loved it.
amazing. Thank you.
So it is your fault. Um, both, both from just the encouragement. I mean, you provided the venue. As we've talked about, I do a lot of sailing, and I'm going to be on the water one way or another in the summertime, as soon as it's open. Uh, but having something to look forward to, something to train for. Be honest, the first paddle challenge that I did, I I didn't do anything different than my regular life. And I can remember making it from the start at St. Vital to the canoe and paddle club and realizing this is the farthest I've paddled in my life. And now I have to go. I'm one quarter of the way there, or one. So, and it worked out great. There were people all the way along to cheer me on, like it was the most inclusive, exciting experience. I never felt that I couldn't make it. Um, there's a little bit of current here, and the check stops. I thought you did a great job in setting them up where people did have exit points and they had supports and food and um, it was great enough that I brought my partner out the next year, which she's amazing. Where I think the most she'd ever paddled was 3 kilometers, and for some reason agreed to do a 44K paddle with me.
Oh wow. And that's the year you two paddled together, correct? For the whole race?
We
Separate
did,
boards,
yes.
but together? Yeah.
Separate boards. I was on that wooden stuff that I had built, and I can't remember what she was paddling. Uh, but we had a great day. We probably used most of the allotted time. But you've built in that
Hey, you're getting your
flexibility in the
money's
end.
worth, right? It was a beautiful day. Enjoy the course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that fondly when the two of you came in. That was pretty special moment. I think you were the closers, the final two to come in. And so we had the big crowd cheering the two of you in, and that was really cool, really special event. And I know Tanis, I got to give a big shout out and thanks to her because she's taken a big role in the paddle challenge as well as our main timer. So Tanis, thank you. We appreciate everything you do at the finish line. And yeah, thank you.
No, so the paddle challenge has been great. I've roped in a number of friends to come and experience it. And I love that. I think there's something for everybody. I mean, you've got all the boat types, but you've got everyone from a Costco kayak to a C1 that are blazing trail, and I
Mhm.
think everybody's having the same amount of fun. They're having the fun that they want to have, and that's one of the things I love about this event.
And so you've been every year you've done the paddle challenge. In 23, we started the Red River 100. And I think that would have been your next step up from the 44 to the 100 kilometers. How did you prepare going to that race and how did you adjust? How did you feel? How was that experience?
I tried to paddle. Uh, a peculiarity with me is I'm not really good historically in preparing for something. I I just have to build it into my life, which is a big part of commuting to work by bike, paddling with the dog, and maybe I'll add a couple extra kilometers. So for the 100, I did try to extend some of my other paddles, but I think even with that one. I just knew I needed to have some more stamina. I think still the furthest I'd paddled was the Red River Paddle Challenge at 44K, and I hoped that paddling a little bit more gave me a little bit more endurance that I could do it for 2 days. And it was, just thinking back to the event, uh, it was a little cold in the morning, a little drizzly. Uh, but again, the people around that I, I get confidence from other people. I'd never seen that part of the river before. I was nervous about some of the rocks sticking out, and how close to the shore I can go. But you're paddling with people and getting energy from them. Uh, so it was a great race, and I ended up making new friends, and learning how to draft a little bit better, which was fairly critical. It was a windy day, and I don't know if all people think this, but somewhere in my brain, I think of rivers as being straight, and the Red River is nothing. That approach
No,
is straight, and if
it's
you
very
get a
windy.
if you get a wind forecast from the east, let's say, you're going to feel it in every direction that day because it's bouncing off the shores. And so drafting was really important on that race. And because of that, I got to meet Jeff Blakeston, who's changed canoe or changed kayaks and learn how to paddle. And I should have learned faster how to draft. I've got a little chip in the front of my board that I need to fix, but yes, Brad, that was the next step up for me. Like, let's get up to this 100K distance over 2 days, and it felt really good. It really surprised me that at least with my body, it's like, okay, I remember how to do this, and you pass a certain threshold, and it maybe autopilot's not the right word, but you get in a rhythm, and I didn't
You
expect
do,
that.
yeah.
I didn't expect that to
Yeah.
happen, and it was a really pleasant surprise because it just
Yeah.
made it more enjoyable.
And how did you feel when you came in, when you woke up day two? And did you feel fine? Were you excited? Were you like, oh no, I have to go and paddle again? Or what
All of the
was
above.
going through your mind then? That all of the above, yeah.
All of the above. Body felt good. I was ready to go, and you're walking into the start of the Red River Paddle Challenge with people that are fresh. And so even if I wasn't 100%, all the energy's there, which was
Yeah.
which is really neat too. Some people knew that a group had been paddling the day before. Most, I think, didn't. Um, but yeah, we started, and it almost felt like the first day hadn't existed. When doing that, oddly enough.
Right. That's really cool. And you're coming back this year too. We've got you signed up for, well, this year actually. I hope you know what you signed yourself up for, because the 100, it got extended 10% and it's now the 110. We have a Les Voyageurs challenge, and it's 110 kilometers. So people complained in the past about the buoy turn. So in the previous Red River 100, you had to come up from St. Agathe, pass the St. Mattel Park finish line and paddle, I don't know, a kilometer or two, then turn around at the buoy that I placed, and then paddle back upstream to finish. And that was so that we could get that distance and actually have 100 kilometers in total for the both days. That's why we did that. This year, we're doing a big celebration, and we have the Forks as the finish line, which I'm excited for. The Forks it's an awesome place. I love, one of my favorite paddles to do is the Assiniboine River and finishing and taking out the Forks. Good takeout, good food, good drinks. So that's where it's going to finish. So that made the race 10 kilometers longer this year, 110 kilometers. What are your thoughts about this year's race? Excited? What are you looking forward to?
I'm really excited about that. I'm pulling out of the Forks, like you said. I've done it twice. Stopped for some food and a beverage and carried on. And the Assiniboine is beautiful. I know we won't be doing the Assiniboine, but yeah, that buoy turn, I don't mind the turn per se, but it is a bit of a mental game to be passing your finish line and having to come back. So in a way, I think that last 10K from the St. Mattel Bridge to the Forks will probably go relatively quickly. Uh,
Yeah.
from a mental standpoint, I mean that you're in familiar waters. You can click off. There's the BDI Bridge. Um, there's there's the St. Mattel Bridge. Oh, and now I can see the bottles in the trees that the paddlers are using, and I'm almost there. So I'm excited about that. I haven't started thinking about the logistics on who picks me up at the Forks and where the board goes, but I think that's fairly small. Uh, or
That's all minor. Well,
maybe we'll just paddle back to St. Vital and have the board there for the next day.
sure. Yeah. It'll be a 120 then for you.
But I'm very excited about the event.
So yes, so you've done these big ones. I also want to touch in. So you mentioned Jeff Blakeston, and was it? Yeah, it was 2 years ago, 2024. There was a crew of us. We went down to Minnesota and we did the Mississippi River 145 race.
We did.
Tell us a bit about that, because that's for me, that's one of my favorite ultra distance races for us here, because besides the Red River Paddle Challenge, of course, it's so close and accessible. You can get there 6-hour drive and you're at the start of this race, and it's an amazing event. So tell us a bit about your experience and what prompted you to sign up and take on a much larger challenge than you've previously done in the past.
I guess it's the incremental improvements, but that also seem sometimes insurmountable. Can I challenge myself to do this? Um, I've done the 100 over 2 days. In my mind, can I do 100 in one day? Probably, but don't know for sure. And so, I'm going to do this. I said, if you're deciding to do it, let's just try it. If it works, it works. But waiting a couple years to figure out if it makes sense, that didn't make sense to me. So I'm going to give this a shot. And you and Sean and a couple other people in our community really helped. The places where I knew I'd be struggling would be, how do I fuel my body for that amount of time? And so I started by recommendation, doing some longer paddles. But when I say longer, like 30 to 40K. I just did two of those before the event. But that really proved that I could I was using the Hammer Nutrition products.
Okay.
And they were fabulous. My body was happy. I wasn't hungry. I never felt dehydrated. So when I convinced myself that I think that's going to work, that I've got a system. And I was really lucky. My sister was living in Minneapolis at the time, and she said, "I'll drive up. I'll be your land support, and make that happen." And so yeah, we all went down together. I was petrified, terrified about all of the portages we have to do. I think there are 5 of them.
About that, yeah. And some of them they're pretty long.
Yeah, one's long. You were paddling a fair bit faster than I was. The river it was a high water year. Which the river, I've never been in water like that, Brad. Wait, there was a point at Fort Ripley where I was paddling with Jeff Blakeston and a couple other people we just picked up on the river, and they were building Bailey bridges, floating bridges across the river, and they were just taking them apart. It was dusk, twilight, with a fierce wind blowing bugs into our face so we couldn't see. The waves, I had to kneel on the board. The waves were probably 2.5 feet, just rolling from these boats running around. So I'm not paddling, I'm balanced in the boat, and I look at my Garmin. I'm doing 10.5 miles an hour.
Holy.
And I thought, wow, this is something I didn't expect.
Yeah. I bet you were hoping that would continue for the rest of the race.
Which I was. And it was an amazing race. I will never forget it. And I want to do it again because of the variety of experiences. That start of that race coming off the beach felt an awful lot like paddling the Red River or paddling Lake the Woods, coming around some islands, a short portage, and river paddling through a town. It was lovely. And then got calm for a while, and then really rocking. And that particular year, there was no moon. It was pitch black.
You did this straight through 145 miles, and I've got in my notes here that it was just over 27 hours that you took to do this, which is that's incredible. 27 hours. You didn't stop, did you?
We didn't stop. I had a 15-minute nap at one of the portages. Had some food, and at that point committed to paddling with Jeff. Make sure everybody was safe. So we closed my eyes for 15 minutes and did a really long portage. And learned a lot about, if you're feeling good in the boat, on the boat, standing on the board, keep going. That's one thing.
That's the thing, yeah.
That's one thing that Sean told me at the beginning, and so I'd make some changes the next time.
Yeah. Especially when you're on a race with flow, right? I mean, if you need to tinker with your gear or even have a snack, you're better off staying on the boat in the flow because you're moving, you're getting closer to that finish line. Whereas
Yeah.
some people, they want to go to shore and then take time looking through their bags. That's just wasted time where you could still be
Still
free
be moving.
mileage, stay on the water.
And that's one of the things I didn't know how it would be on, I'm paddling L1 Ocean Sports Edge 2.0. It's 23.5 inches. It's a great board for that. You're very familiar with that board.
I am. Very nice board.
And with the gear, I didn't need to get off the water. I was able to kneel, to stretch legs, to, obviously standing. So that's set up really well. And so yeah, moving back to our 110 on the river in the fall. The board set up great. I'm excited for it. But I can remember the second portage, and I can't remember the town, but you can see it coming a long ways away, and the water's glassy, calm, pitch black except for reflected light. And I was told that you had to stay left, and tried to stay left, and my paddle started hitting the bottom. I'm like, oh no.
I know the spot you're talking about.
Yeah, oh no. So start getting left, and we pull out, and it's a very short portage there, literally half a city block. And then you can see the other side of the dam, and it looked like a cartoon, water shooting in the air 30 feet. And I'm like, oh no. And I looked at it for a while, and my sister's wondering, are you going to go? And I watched a canoe launch, and I said, well, they haven't come back, so I guess it's safe. so, so so I launched and made it around the corner through bubbly and foamy water, and took a breath, and you know what? I can do this. I can do this. Confidence built, and I'm paddling along slowly, and I start hearing rushing water, and I thought, there's not another dam on here. What is this? And it was a boulder. And so just learning to using your system, your senses, listening and feeling the water, and
Yeah, because when you're doing it, this is at night now.
pitch black.
Yeah, no moon, and being able to use your senses to hear, and you can't always see like that boulder.
Yeah,
That's
you're hearing it and trying to feel if is the board being pulled one way or another for where this current's coming from, and you're standing during this, and that was I did get used to standing. It's very hard to stand on a board with no horizon. In places it was so dark, but I did get used to that. And probably the worst part of that race was coming into that second portage, and I came around a corner, and there was a train. I thought it was a train, a super bright light, or was it cars on the highway? And it kept changing, but the light was so disorienting that I couldn't stand. I didn't know which way was up. Um, and this went on for about an hour. I'd stand for a bit, and I couldn't see the horizon. And as we came into that second portage, I realized what it was. It was the race legal 2 nautical mile stern light of a canoe in front of us. Bright, bright white light.
wow, and you had just been following it.
Yeah, and so it'd open up around corners, and it would get super bright. And by the time I got there, I'd passed the canoe, and we were paddling with some other people, and we all, as kindly as we could at that point, said, could you please cover your light just a little? That's it.
Wow. Yeah.
That was really the worst part of the paddle. It was very disorienting.
So you weren't hallucinating then, it was the light. Did you hallucinate at all?
I didn't. No, I'm really curious to do it again, Brad, or as an event similar in output. I really think being my first event that I had the right amount of adrenaline going through me the whole time, that I wasn't tired.
So that was your first time paddling at night too, wasn't it?
First time paddling at night, my first all-nighter. I made it through university with never doing an all-nighter, and I thought, this is great. Fabulous.
Wow. So what else? You mentioned you would do something like this again. What did you learn? So you mentioned you want to improve next time. What were some of the things that you took away as, I want to improve this better, or next time I do an event like this, I'm going to try this instead?
The biggest thing was the food. What do I need to keep myself going? And with drinking my food and having the bars that I like to eat for sustenance, and having something on shore, I needed much less than I thought I did. And I also learned that I need fewer clothes. Like bring the right clothes, bring the layer that's going to keep you warm when it starts to rain. But um, I just didn't need as much as I thought I need. Of course, you need to have some safety stuff for when an accident occurs, but packing that way is a big thing. And the other is just not to stop. Team sports are great, and it's nice to paddle with people, but you also need to pick what's best for your own cadence. And so I do that a little bit differently next time too.
That's great stuff. So that's kind of it for all my questions. Yeah, it's been so awesome to chat with you, Keith. And I look forward to seeing you on the water. We're gonna have to get out and paddle soon. I don't think you've been on the water yet this year. Not many people have, but soon.
Absolutely,
I
I'll
know
get
you
the
got a
boards
dry
out.
suit.
I've got a
We'll
dry
have to
suit.
get
I'll
out.
the boards out. Give me a call. We'll fit it in between other projects.
Yeah, you betcha. And I'm looking forward to having you at the paddle challenge this year. And hopefully we get some more stand-up paddleboarders this year. So I don't know, is there anything you can say to encourage some more paddleboarders to come out? Hey, I know you won something last year. I forgot. So every year we have some pretty awesome prizes. And what did you end up going home with last year?
I won the lottery. Other than the event, I came home with a brand new paddleboard last year, Brett. I paddled it that day just to see what it's like, and I'm excited to get it out of the bag and and try it again. So,
Yeah,
but
that was hilarious. You won this board, and then right away you're unpackaging it and you pumped it up and you threw it on the river and paddling around the finish line at the paddle challenge on your new board. That was amazing. So funny.
yeah, no,
Yeah, very nice board. You're a lucky guy.
I am a lucky guy for many reasons. But to close up, to encourage people, I'm always talking about this event, the effort that you and all the other volunteers, Tannis included, put into this. But yeah, so many prizes, from paddles to boards to cups. I've got everyone's getting, in the past participation awards, and they're top notch. Just love them.
Yeah.
So if you think you can do it, if you can paddle, you can do it. I think that's the message. Challenge yourself. Sign up. I know you can do 10K. If you've done 2K, you can do 10K. I just know you can. And you'll do the 10K and go, that wasn't so bad. And if you put in a little bit more practice beforehand, you will be amazed at what your mind and body you'll just have a blast of a day.
Solid advice there, Keith. Thank you so much. It's been great having you, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Keith, thanks so much for being part of the Red River Paddle Challenge family from the very beginning and sharing your stories with us today. I can't wait to see you on the start line of the 2026 Les Voyageurs Challenge. And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning into the Red River Paddlecast. I hope you're inspired to embrace your own challenges and explore the great outdoors. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the Red River Paddlecast, share it with a friend, and stay tuned for more stories from the paddling community.